bringing you key insights, tips, and advice from the brightest minds in the Canadian franchise industry. This is the Franchise Canada Chats podcast. Welcome to the Franchise Canada Chats podcast, where we take you into the world of franchising. Our interviews are with franchisees, franchisors, and industry leaders who give on-the-pulse expert advice and share their franchising insights and experiences. I'm your host, Stephanie. This is Season 4, Episode 6 of the spring season. In this episode, I talked to Spiritleaf franchisee Cara Rose-Brown, who opened a franchise in Stitsville, Ontario with her husband Tim in July 2020. The couple have been franchising together for more than 20 years. Spiritleaf is a Canadian cannabis brand that currently has 68 franchise units across Canada. They operate with the goal of being the most knowledgeable and trusted retailer of recreational cannabis. Here, Cara shares why she and Tim decided to open a Spiritleaf franchise to help bring cannabis to their small community in Ottawa, how she and Tim won Spiritleaf's Franchise Partners of the Year award in December 2020, just 5 months after opening their franchise, and how the entrepreneurial spirit runs in the family, as the couple also introduced their son Mitch to franchising and hope to leave a legacy for him with their Spiritleaf franchise. Enjoy the episode. What were you doing before you became a Spiritleaf franchisee, and what drew you to franchising?
So my husband Tim and I have been franchisees actually for over 20 years. We bought our first oil changers drive-through quick lube franchise in 1999, and we purchased our second in 2011. So we're very familiar with the franchising model and saw the value in connecting with the franchise when we first thought of opening a cannabis retail store.
Why did you decide to choose Spiritleaf as your franchise?
Well, when Justin Trudeau started first talking about legalizing cannabis in Canada, Tim and I went to a franchise show in Toronto to see if there was actually any cannabis franchisors there. And we had the opportunity to meet Darren Bonder, who's the CEO of Spiritleaf. And we talked to him about the benefits of becoming a franchisee with Spiritleaf. But before we could sign with them, Ontario made the decision to open the Ontario Cannabis Store as the only place to purchase cannabis in Ontario. So at that point, there was no point buying a franchise. When Doug Ford was elected and opened up the market, we revisited the thought of owning a Spiritleaf franchise, as we really thought their brand was warm and beautiful. And the team that we had met seemed really quite amazing. So we emailed all of their existing franchisees, asking them about the quality of the company and their support system. And the feedback was outstanding. So in September of 2018, we signed our franchise agreement with Spiritleaf.
Awesome. And for listeners who maybe aren't familiar with Spiritleaf, can you describe what it is in a few words?
So Spiritleaf is a franchise company. It is all across Canada. Right now, I believe we're at the 80 franchises, or between corporate and franchise stores. So it's a legal retail cannabis store. And their brand is so beautiful, warm, welcoming, high-end, classy. We looked at a number of different franchises that were starting up at the time, but none of them compared to how beautiful this one is.
Great. So what kind of training and support did you receive from your franchisor?
We received a lot of support right from the day of signing the franchise agreement. All our documentation regarding the company and their whole support system arrived in organized binders the day after we signed. The website offered all this digital information on anything we would need to know. And we were introduced to the whole head office team, and they were totally accessible. I think that's the part that impressed me the most about Spiritleaf then, was that no matter who I called or emailed, they would respond immediately to me. Even though they're building this huge company across Canada, I was important and they responded to me immediately. Our previous franchises that we had, the drive-through quick lubes, were turnkey operations. So the build out of our store for Spiritleaf was totally new to us. but Spiritleaf walked us through everything. The plans and designs were created for our store, and the permits and all the fixtures and furniture was all ordered for us. As we got closer to opening the store, the original plan was for our management team to go to Calgary for a 5-day training program at the Spiritleaf head office there. And we would train on COVA and Dutchie, the platforms that we use. We'd learn about the AGCO reporting and any required financial documents, marketing, how to operate our business, HR, everything. But unfortunately, due to COVID, we were unable to do that. So Spiritleaf set up a webinar training for each of the modules and walked us through everything we needed to know. And then on opening day, we had head office staff there with us to support us and our employees to ensure we had an amazing opening. So even though they're growing at this incredible rate all across Canada, they still operate very much like a small family.
So you and Tim opened your Spiritleaf franchise in July 2020, right?
Yes, we did.
So right in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, what challenges have you faced so far, if you've had any? And more importantly, how have you overcome those challenges?
So we began building our store in late February of 2020, just as the pandemic was beginning to become the new conversation around the world. Mm-hmm. We were working closely with Spiritleaf and their head office on our design and with our contractor on our build to complete the store as quickly as possible, because we wanted to get into the Alcohol and Games Commission of Ontario. We wanted to get into their queue as quickly as possible in order to open. But as the weeks passed, we realized this pandemic was going to change everything for everyone. And supplies for our build became harder and harder to get. And we were required to make some changes to our flooring and our lighting, and as original products were no longer available. And with the first COVID shutdown in Ontario, our construction was actually halted for a number of weeks, setting us back on our opening date. But once construction reopened in Ontario, we still had some difficulty because we had ordered these beautiful custom wood walls from a mill worker in Quebec, but their borders were closed, so we couldn't get them in. So we had a few setbacks, but we did what everybody else did during COVID. We persevered and we continued moving forward with everything. And we had the whole Spiritleaf support team always right there with us, which is something you don't have when you venture into a business on your own. So Spiritleaf was there to immediately make any required design and construction changes that we had due to COVID. And once our build was completed, they supported us with hiring and training and with learning what it took to open and run a retail cannabis dispensary. Then on July 18th, 2020, we proudly opened our Spiritleaf store in Stitsville. We were fortunate that the first wave of COVID was over and we could open our doors to the public and actually invite them in. And when the second wave of COVID came, Ontario went into lockdown and we had to close our doors to the public and open to curbside pickup only. But working with Spiritleaf, we came up with a plan on how we could continue to safely operate our business while keeping our staff and customers safe and meeting all the requirements of AGCO and Ottawa Health. So being prepared really helped us and our staff and our customers with these new challenges, with this new world that we're actually living in now.
Great. Was there anything you may have underestimated about business ownership before you became a franchisee?
Yeah, good question. The fact that we've been franchisees for 20 years really help prepare us for what would be required to become a Spiritleaf business owner, but what our experience couldn't possibly have prepared us for when we were opening a legal recreational cannabis business is that it's one of its kind. It's one of a kind, the first of its kind in the whole world. And that it's so new and controversial that it's highly regulated by multiple levels of government. Big banks won't acknowledge you because you're talking about cannabis, and processes change regularly as this industry expands, and you're selling a product that's basically reinventing as we speak. And this is all during a worldwide COVID pandemic. I'm not sure there would have been any way to prepare for such a thing, but we did it. We managed to pull it off, and we're very, very proud of that.
Good for you guys. It's awesome to hear. We hope you're enjoying this episode so far. Did you know that Franchise Canada has a newsletter sent twice a month that's packed full of fresh franchise opportunities? With Franchise Canada e-News, you get new content from Franchise Canada magazine, franchisee success stories, industry news about CFA members, educational videos all about franchising, and you can keep up to date on the newest episodes of the Franchise Canada Chats podcast that you're listening to right now. Plus, by subscribing to Franchise Canada e-News, you get a free subscription to Franchise Canada magazine. Subscribe now at franchisecanada.online. Now back to the podcast episode you are enjoying. How would you describe your experience as a franchisee so far? And do you think it would have been different if you went into business by yourself?
We were thrilled to choose Spiritleaf as our franchisor because their brand's beautiful and warm and welcoming and creates the exact kind of store Tim and I wanted to be able to showcase cannabis for what it is and not something that should have been hidden down a dark alley. We've received a ton of support from the Spiritleaf family, and I can't imagine moving into this new industry without them. I never would have considered opening this business without Tim. We've been business partners married for 33 years and business partners for 22 years. And we complement each other's skills so well. Like people talk about how you can't live and work together in a business, but that's not true in our case. Our skills complement each other greatly, and we couldn't do it without each other. But we did discuss the pros and cons before signing on with Spiritleaf about opening our own store versus going as a franchise and just opening a mom and pop store, I guess they call them. But we thought about that, and with this being a legal cannabis retail store and the industry being so new and everything about it being so new, we saw the value in joining a franchise system. And that's what Spiritleaf has offered us. They've offered us a documented, organized system that provides us with everything from store location to design, training, operations, HR, government reporting, everything. And we realized when we started looking at the whole big picture was that the franchise model gave us everything we wanted. So looking back at it, we're really grateful that we found Spiritleaf that day in Toronto and were able to sign on with them for their support.
Amazing. As the saying goes, franchisees are in business for themselves, but not by themselves.
That's it. Absolutely. that is truly the benefit.
Definitely. What are the benefits of franchising with your family?
We've worked as a franchise family for over 20 years now, so it's pretty much second nature to us. We have a 30-year-old son, Mitch, and owning a franchise business is something he's grown up with, and living with it as a family is all he's really ever known. He worked for us at our oil changers franchise evenings and weekends throughout high school and college, university, and then worked there full time until we closed that business in 2019. And Mitch has a strong interest in learning everything he can about cannabis. After leaving oil changers, he got a job at one of the original cannabis retail stores that opened up in Ottawa in order to gain experience that eventually would help us when we opened our store in Stitsville. And through the people he met in the industry, we were able to hire numerous, what I like to call cannabis geniuses that are the backbone of our store today. Even at home, much of our discussion with Mitch and his girlfriend, Emily, who also works with us, and Tim and I is about how the day went, what we could improve on or do better at what we do. And I guess business is just in our blood. It's something we've been doing for so many years. We can't imagine not doing it.
Awesome. Are there any challenges of franchising with your family that maybe you weren't expecting to encounter?
You know, many people say, like I said before, that you can't work with your family and live with your family, but I don't know. For some reason, it's always worked for us. I guess the challenges are that the buck stops with us when there is an issue. We're the ones that have to deal with the big issues or any any problems within the franchise. And it does cause stress in a family sometimes when things don't go the way you expect them or want them to go. But as far as working with the family, no, I wouldn't do it any other way.
Great. Coming from a small town in Stitsville, Ottawa, how have you connected to your community? And have locals been supportive about your business since it's in the cannabis industry?
Yes, Stitsville is a great little town. The people there are amazing and very supportive. I think we were blown away by how supportive they have been. From the day we opened our doors, we were greeted with so many locals happy that we'd moved to Stitsville, and people on the west end of the city and the outlying rural areas were all seriously grateful not to have to go all the way downtown to purchase their cannabis products. Every single person in the door for the first few months told us how thrilled they were that we were there, which is really, really nice. So they welcomed us totally with open arms. And Stitsville has an older demographic as well. And we welcome many older customers into our store on a daily basis. The oldest I've met so far is 92. And I think like our first day open, I think 95% of the people that walked in the door had to have been 55 and older. It was like my age group, all of us from the 70s coming in to check out this new legal cannabis store. It was very, very cool. We're also getting many people coming in now that have never consumed cannabis, that simply want information on it. Now that it's legal, they want to try it, but they don't know what to try or how much. And our staff are very welcoming and really seriously knowledgeable and love helping those new to the product. So it's been really fun. Stitsville's totally welcomed us with open arms.
That's great. Must be pretty interesting for your age group, because did you ever imagine cannabis would become legalized in like your lifetime?
I always hoped that was one of the things that always really bothered me, was the stigma around cannabis. And I always wanted to, when I found out that they were legalizing it, I seriously wanted to be one of the pioneers of this new industry and be part of bringing a different mindset around cannabis to Canada, to the Canadians. And Canada is also showcasing this to the world by being first to market to do this. So I wanted to be part of that world, and we were fortunate that we were able to pull it off and do it. So I'm very excited to be part of this.
What accomplishments or awards or big successes have you and Tim achieved as franchisees so far?
So I think the biggest accomplishment for us, and something we consider a huge accomplishment and that we're so proud of as a family, is to the fact that we even opened our doors to having a legal cannabis retail store. It was a difficult process going through the application and approval and building a store and opening during COVID. It was seriously like riding the highest, scariest roller coaster, and yet managing to make it to the finish. You know, there were some times when I wasn't sure we would. It was a bit of a difficult process, a lot of ups and downs, and you had to be really able to let things go and continue on, push forward. And as far as awards, in December 2020, Spiritleaf held their annual franchise awards. We'd only been open for 5 months, and out of the 70 Spiritleaf stores that were open at the time, we were voted Spiritleaf's Franchise Partners of the Year, and we're really seriously proud of that. And what made it even more special was the fact that we were so busy learning how to run our new store and busy handling all our amazing customers that our staff all forgot to vote. And the only votes we actually received came from outside our store. So it made it even more special that we won.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. We're very proud of that.
So what are some of the benefits of being a franchisee in your perspective?
I think the largest benefit for me is the support system. And not just from the franchisor, which has always been totally amazing. They've been with us all the way through, and they hold our hand every time we need it. They help us every time we call. They have this proven system that works. They've been amazing, but not just from them, but also from the other franchisees, the other Spiritleaf franchisees. We're like a big growing family where everybody looks out for each other. I'm the Franchise Association representative for Ontario, and I reach out to the Ontario franchisees on a regular basis just to chat, see how everybody's doing, throwing out information that they might need. And everyone is so genuinely caring and supportive of each other. Everyone does what they can to ensure we all succeed. So it's not just about when you're a franchise that you have franchisor support. There's a ton of support from all the other franchisees, which is amazing.
And what do you love most about being a business owner, either in general or being a business owner of a cannabis franchise?
So I've always loved being a business owner. I think I was just I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I like the fact that I don't work 9 to 5. I work a lot more than that, but I don't work 9 to 5. I get to come and go as I please. If there's a certain event I need to be at, I can pick up and go. I don't have to have anybody's permission to do that. If we decide to go away for a few days, we can do that. Yeah. There was a period of time where my husband's family lost his brother to cancer, and we were able to pick up and go spend weeks at a time with him. That's the advantages of being a business owner. But there's the downside too, because sometimes it gets very hard and it gets very stressful, and you're at the top of the chain, so you deal with the big issues. But that's part of it. It's the balance. You get the good and bad of both. And I've always just loved that. I've always loved the fact that this is our business and we as a family are building and working towards it. And as far as the cannabis business, that was one that Tim and I both, and Mitch, really wanted to do. We really wanted to be involved in this on the ground floor and actually go out and build this business into something amazing, because we always figured it should have been like this. This is how it should have been. And to remove the stigma and the shame around using cannabis or selling cannabis was very important to us. And so we're thrilled about having the opportunity to have made it in through the system and actually have our store open and running and welcoming customers into our store every day.
That's great. So some franchise owners who are in business with significant others or family members, they actually end up purchasing multiple franchise locations. Do you and Tim have any plans to expand your ownership?
You know, that's the question now, isn't it? Because we've actually been throwing that question around a fair bit over the last little while. We're both in our early 60s, and we wanted to open this store, like I said, because we wanted to be pioneers in this new legal industry and help remove the stigma around cannabis that we've experienced our whole entire lifetime. But we also wanted to create a legacy business for Mitch and Emily, a business that they love, that they can carry on with if they so choose. So the answer on whether there'll be additional stores in the future is still undecided. We'll have to do another interview to find how that went in the near future. It's a big maybe.
Yeah, definitely something to consider.
For sure.
Do you and Tim have any short-term or long-term goals for your business that you're striving towards?
Yes, I think both are short and long-term goals for our business is to create the most beautiful, welcoming, educational store that everyone talks about in the city as the best in class and the one definitely not to miss. That's our goal.
Great. Is there anything you've been watching, reading, activity you've been doing with Tim or your family that keeps you motivated and occupied over the past kind of difficult year?
We live on the Ottawa River, so we tend to spend a lot of time outside We spend time walking or ice fishing or snowmobiling, I guess. We like to get outside and do things like that just to kind of relieve some of the stress of being inside all the time. We spend a lot of time reading. We spend a lot of time reading about cannabis and researching cannabis and reading the different information from all the LPs that's sent to us, because we're very invested in our business. So it consumes, right now during COVID, it consumes a lot of our time, just keeping up with everything, because everything it changes daily. The regulations seem to change constantly. The information of the new products that are always coming out and being developed changes. There's so much science to this industry that you can't possibly learn it all. So we spend a lot of time researching and discussing our business as a family, but at other times we just need to get outside and blow off some steam in our little country setting that we live in.
Is there a person or thing in your professional or personal life that inspires you every day to achieve your goals, to work harder, to stay motivated?
That would have to be my family. My son and my husband and Mitch's girlfriend, Emily. The four of us currently all live here together, which has worked out well during COVID. My son and his girlfriend are looking at building a house on the same street that we're on, because they too like this community and this area. And the four of us have been kind of not stuck, but we've been home together a lot. And so it's been a lot of work building this business and discussing this business, but it's also something we've all immensely enjoyed. And Mitch is amazing at understanding process, and because he had such a background in cannabis and he has such a background in knowing how the dispensaries run, he was so key in making sure we understood what needed to be done and put in place before we even opened. So I think I would say it's my husband, my son's girlfriend. All of us together inspire each other to make sure this continues to work as successfully as it does.
Amazing. My final question is, what advice for success would you give to others that are considering franchising with their family?
I would say do it. Who will support you, have your back, or show up for you more than family? I can't imagine having ever done this any other way. I guess that's another thing people say too, right? That not only with your spouse, but also don't work with your family. But I disagree. I mean, it's been amazing for us, and we all take care of each other and we all have each other's back. And if one of us can't be there, the other one shows up. And so I can't imagine doing it any other way. I would say go for it. I would definitely highly recommend it.
Awesome. Is there anything you wanted to add?
I'm very proud to be a Spiritleaf franchisee. I'm very proud to be the owner of a legal retail cannabis store. It's something that we've worked for the last 3 years towards, and we're finally here, and we're so excited to be here. And we look forward to watching where the changes in this industry, and watching where it grows and goes, and and what it actually turns into, because it's never existed before anywhere. So now the sky's the limit to see where this is actually going to go.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. For more franchising resources, including how-to articles, expert advice, franchisee success stories, and franchise opportunities, visit franchisecanada.online. Don't forget to subscribe to Franchise Canada e-news while you're there. You can also learn more about franchising at cfa.ca and can connect with specific franchise opportunities at lookforfranchise.ca.